unicellars, multicellars, multi-billion cellars, then crawled out of the oceans, then took many forms, many shapes, and we walked past the, it wasn't an easy path to come to this level. I mean, the volcanoes were spewing lava, the hurricanes were making your life miserable, and ever-shifting tectonic plates under your feet. And there was always a fear that some rock might come out from outer space and crush you. It all happened, and we are still here. So every one of us deserves that congratulations. This wasn't an easy life to come through all this time. But once we go through all this process, we are here. What next we want to achieve? So that's where Dr. Harari's books are immense help. They make us understand who we are, what we are, and this itself, this cognitive revolution. So, because there are millions of species, and we are another one of those species, but this species has something special. It tries to, it's intrigued by its own presence. It wants to understand, and it tries to question why we do things, what we do things. So this is no less of a miracle. And life was, when it started as if you look today in our daily basis, what we do, we have to go for workouts. We have to, we have the family system where there's a dad, there's a mom, there are kids. If somebody wants to understand all this, all you have to do is to go back to the jungle life, the hunter-gatherer's lifestyle. All of your emotions, your passions, your dreams, what you eat, what you should not eat, as I mentioned about the samosa thing, where this high calorie, our addiction for the high calorie come from. Because if you're living in a jungle life, there was not high calorie food enough available for you. So if you go to a jungle, you got a bush of berries, right? So you see, oh, okay, because sweet was not something available to you very easily. So you would grab, you are competing against baboons and monkeys and so many other species. If you would not take those berries, somebody else would take it. So we would just try to grab as much as possible. And although we have now plenty of sugar, plenty of things, but that instinct of eating the sugar and for the high calorie diet still doesn't go away. Then some of critics, they say about, well, you talk about the healthy diets and the healthy food and everything. Look at the guy, what again, hunter-gatherer person, who would eat all the vegetables and vegetarian diet, would breathe in the fresh air, would not smoke and something, but he would live till only for 35 years. So in that quest, you want to understand, so what has changed? So from all those times, and since the time we started documenting the history, by year 1500, the human population touched the number of 500 million. In the next 420 years, we touched the number of 2 billion. So by 1920s, the human population touched the number of 2 billion. But in the last 100 years, that number is now 7 billion. So something is happening. And if you look back, the average life of a Homo sapien, or human being, as we want to call it, was 35 to 40 years. And that's in the start of the 20th century. When I look at it, I find two things that came to our life: antibiotics and dentists. So those small cuts and wounds that would turn into gangrene and we would die, like there are so many examples in Dr. Harari's book as well. The monarchs, the king, they would marry a whole lot, and they would have a lot of kids. Okay, you can blame this to their libido as well, but at the same time, we have to see why they might have so many kids. Because the survival rate, the survival rate for the humans was much thinner. Like a king that normally has like 20 kids, probably maybe one or two of them would cross the age of 20. So he wanted to have somebody to succeed his kingdom. So, and this story just goes on and on. But right now, with the introduction of all this, we have got this much population. So we are here, and we are not trying to figure out, and that's where I would like to take some reference from the Homo Deus book. That's because a lot of my friends, I think, who's going to speak after me, are going to cover this subject. But let's see where we are heading to. Right, the first question comes up, apart from whatever the faith we belong to, but the thing is, why we die? Why our metabolism stays in check up till the age of 30. And after 30, we start getting bulky, we have to do workouts to maintain ourselves. Where this information is coded is deep down in our genetics, in our genes, in our DNA. There must be a gene that dictates that by the age of 30 years, metabolism is the process where new cells are created, the old cells get destroyed. So that process would be slowing down, and after that we have to struggle. Obviously, I can draw a whole lot of references back in the history, but given the time constraints, let's keep it. So now the scientists, the biologists, what they're working on right now, trying to decipher that DNA code, which is not easy. In one human cell, they say that the length of the chains of the DNA are around 1 meter. So if you combine all those chains that we have got billions of cells in our body, so we can go to the moon and come back. That's the kind of length we have. Obviously, most of that is the exact replica of all the DNA chains. But once you figure out, then we are going to have our next breakthrough. The question of immortality. It has been the dream of all the ancient civilizations, the philosophers, the doctors. Like Arabs, they have spent most of their times concocting the elixir of life because we don't want to die. Now, back in 2012, I remember on the cover of the Time magazine, there was a baby, a few months old baby, and very, very adorable, beautiful baby, says, and the picture of that baby was there, and it said this baby might live for 150 years. And I don't dispute it, and I have no reasons to dispute it, because the way we see in the last 100 years, we took our lifespan from 35 to 40 years, and now we are talking about 70 to 80 years, and in developed countries, it's going far, more, like numbers of 100 are not really getting uncommon. But how it's going to impact our social structure? That's one of the questions. Even the Google futurist, when he talks about that we are working on the project Immortality, and he is very ambitious about his plans. He says by maybe 2050, human being may able to achieve this lifelong dream of living forever. But what this living forever means, like if you have like a lifespan of 250 years, just for the starters, and you are married with somebody for 220 years, so I don't know how that's gonna help. Or if you have the kids, that's like a 210-year-old, so that's gonna have some social repercussions. But the actual crux of the issue is not even here. Even if you achieve the immortality, but something else is coming into our life. Our passion to automate things. If you weigh the weight of the Homo sapien of the hunter-gatherers times, the mass of his head, his brain was more than ours. Because he or she has to do things all of his own. If a snake bites him, he has to take care of himself. He didn't have any specialization. He has to take care. If he has to climb up the tree, he must know the skills. If something else happens, he need to have the skills as well. But today we are living in the age of specialization. It's making us lazy. The mass of our head, or the matter over there, is reducing because we have outsourced everything. Oh, he's a doctor, he will take care of us. He's a mason, he's going to build a home for me. You can understand, I can give many examples. And in this quest, we went for the robotics. That's the subject I really would like to touch over here. Robotics is, when coupled with the artificial intelligence, robotics is here for a long time. We've been building cars with those and doing a lot of things for a long, long time. But at the same time, we are now putting some artificial intelligence, like machine-based intelligence behind it. So we want, okay, whatever we had to feed to the robot, we don't have to do even that thing. So it should think itself. So obviously, That's a good thing because you can have a lot of help you can get. But imagine the scenario. I'm not going to give any sci-fi picture over here. It's going to be as real as it gets. So if some mechanical being is so smart that it's serving you, when the cognition that happened to the Homo sapiens 70,000 years back might strike that machine as well. And when it would start thinking, why I have to serve this good for nothing who is just taking advantage of me? And what will happen then? But at the same time, in my take, and also like I would, a lot of help I got from the Homo Deus book, and also another very famous writer, Jared Diamond, from his book too. We probably need it because what the asset we got the intelligent brain, the intelligent life being. And the scientist's biggest quest is how to preserve it, because we might achieve immortality, but our only home, the earth, it has its own capacity to feed us, to take us to the next level. And the way we are dealing with the earth, I don't know for how long this earth would sustain us. So, and if you look at this cosmos and the outer space, we don't have any neighbor around, no neighbors. Go for billions of kilometers, no neighbor you found so far. Billion is a very small number though. The nearest star to us is called Alpha Centauri. It's 5 light years away. Now 5 light years means we are talking about 10 trillion kilometers multiplied by 5. And with the fastest technology that we have right now, that Juno, our space quest basically, it is going at a speed of 120,000 kilometers per hour. Even with that speed, it might take us multi-million years even to reach to our only neighboring star. So obviously, with this body, with this structure, even if we want to preserve the life, we won't be able to go anywhere. So this is the place. No neighbors, no help from outside. Even destruction can come from outside. We got the whole asteroid belt around us, right? The stone can come from there. So obviously, my 2 cents on this subject would be, and I'm not really expert of this one, to do what we can do to save this earth. The global warming is really real. It is hurting us, and we don't have any place to go. We don't have any technology that's going to help us. Obviously, I can talk many tales about the time warp and all those things, but in order to achieve time warp, the kind of immense energy that we need is simply not available here. We cannot have it. And even if you guys quote Dr. Yuval Harari, he is pessimistic about the future of the life. In his Homo Deus book, he is pessimistic. He says, in my take, in his take, 1,000 years max, this species might survive on this planet with the kind of things we are doing over here. So, and you see in the scientific or biological discussion, there is no moral of the story. And I'm not here to draw any moral out of it that, okay, because I spoke this, it is just discussion that I enjoyed this book a whole lot. And anybody who didn't go through, I think they are missing a big deal. So I would suggest, please spare some time, do read it. To my friends, I've been preaching this for a long time. And honestly, the way I got introduced this book, my son, who is now turned 13, he was 11 at that time. So he didn't know anything about the world except the games and all the time he would play and his friends and the stuff. I really wanted to tell him about the world he's living around. So I went in Indigo just looking forward to a book that should cover give some background from the starting to end. So I just stumbled upon this book. And then my son was waiting, then when my dad is going to teach me about this one because I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's a beautiful book, and I can honestly speak, I'm in awe on the way, because this person, Dr. Yuval Harari, he is an academic by his profession, he's a historian, right? But he got the vivid imagination of a social scientist, and he got actual knowledge of the natural sciences too. So this is such a beautiful combination that you really enjoy while reading it. So my 2 cents would be, read the books, and both of these. Thank you very much.